Hello and welcome to Logic Pro 103, and today I'm going to be talking all about recording basics. If you haven't seen 101 or 102, I'll have those down in the description for you to check out. They lay a little bit of fundamental knowledge to get us to this point. Here we go. Recording in Logic is one of those bread and butter skills, and this video is specifically going to handle audio recording. MIDI recording and capturing is a whole other ballgame. To get started, you will need an audio track. I already have one, but I'll show you how to make them as a refresher. So go ahead and click here. Make sure you have mic or line selected. You can adjust your details now or do it later. So the important thing with audio is you have to set your audio input. Come over here to this inspector panel, and you'll need to select right here. You'll need to select whatever input you want from your audio interface. If you don't see your audio interface here, you'll need to go up to Logic Pro Settings, Audio, and make sure you have your audio device selected here. Mine's the SSL12, which is the one right here, but yours is going to be, Focusrite or whatever you happen to have. So to start, I'm going to select my first audio track. We'll call it acoustic guitar. And I'll come over here, and I specifically want this one because I know how my studio is routed and set up, and that'll be recording back to, I don't know if you can see it, back to that silver thing over there. So I'll go ahead and turn it on. Also, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but I have a mic right here. I don't know if either camera is picking it up. I have a mic right here. It's connected to my interface, and that's what I use to record all my guitars. So to get started, make sure your mic is a good distance away from whatever source you're recording. If you get too close, it's going to be a little too boomy and loud. If you're too far away, it'll be a little too thin and roomy. So, every instrument's different. There's a whole rabbit hole there to go into. However, outside of Logic, make sure your microphone is connected in whatever way works for your studio. I'm not going to tell you what to do there. Make sure the audio input you're using is selected here, and come down and click the record arm here. And if you want to hear from Logic what you're doing, click this input monitoring, and that will allow Logic to hear the mic. If this is off, you won't hear it. So all that to say, if you're monitoring from something external, so if your audio interface has its own monitoring where you can hear yourself, you can turn that off. Or if you don't have that set up in your audio interface and you want to hear yourself through Logic, turn this on. If you're getting any sort of delay and latency, it's either due to plugins up here, like you have plugins on some of your channels, but if you're just starting a project, that's not likely. The other reason is because of your I/O buffer size. So if this is set too high, you'll actually get a little bit of recording latency. So I recommend setting this lower. I like 128 or less. So I have a whole, I'll put a video down in the description to help troubleshoot latency if that is you. But I'm going to go ahead and get this recorded. If you want click while you're recording, you can toggle it on and off here. And if you'd like a count in, like let Logic back up a measure before it records, you can click this. So I'm going to have the count in on. I want my recording to start at bar 2. So I have that selected. The other thing you want to watch out for is make sure your audio is not too loud or too soft going in. So if you see here when I'm playing, it's right about -12, the little tiny 12 right there. So that is right where I like it. It is important to note that when you're record armed, the level of the fader does not change what you're seeing here. So, I lost my pick. So when you're record armed, you see the level as it's coming into the computer. So even if my fader is all the way down, I still see it coming in at -12. If this is off, however, then you see the output level basically. All that to say, don't let the fader level scare you when you're recording, because Logic is going to record at the input level regardless of the fader. So you can safely adjust the level of the fader to hear how you want without affecting the level you're recording at. So now I'm going to hit record. I have click turned on and I have count in turned on and I have my playhead at measure 2. And I'm going to go ahead and hit record. Great. I did it. I recorded. You'll notice here I made a mistake and I had my recording start right on the downbeat. So I actually prefer to back it up so that way we get that little very beginning of the note when I started recording, because right now it's going to cut in. And we lucked out this time. It sounds okay. But I will back up and do it again. So I've turned off count in and backed up an additional measure, and I'm going to hit record. Okay. So I'll hit stop when I'm done. And now you've probably gotten to a freaky situation. So let's talk about this. If you've recorded in Logic for any amount of time, you've definitely come across this. This is called a take folder. And I've done a whole deep dive video on this as well, so I'll link that down below. But don't let this scare you. Basically, when you have audio in Logic, like our first take that we did, and you record over it, Logic automatically compiles it into what's called a take folder. And it is literally a folder. You get a little drop-down menu here, and you can select between those two takes or, times that you did the recording. So if I click take 1 right here, we're going to hear our original recording, the first one. If I click this one, you'll hear the new recording where I had a little bit more of an intro to it. You can also pick between different ones as you go. So what I did just then was click and drag on the take that I want, and it'll let you just choose. So if I want to change right here, it'll let me switch between take 2 and take 1. So now if I'm playing, you'll hear it kind of switched. And there's a clean way to do this. If you zoom in, and you basically want to change right before the next note. So right before the next note happens, that's how you'll get the cleanest switches in your takes. All right. When you're done, like you've adjusted your take folder how you want, you can click this little A right here and come down here and hit flatten. And that'll compile your changes back into like a regular audio region like you're used to, so that you don't have to get freaked out about that. That's our first recording. I'm going to do another one just to help understand. Above me here, I have an SM57 that I use for percussion. So I'm going to cue that up and record some shaker. So I'm going to click on this next track. We'll call it shaker. I'm going to come down here and pick my 57. And then I'm just going to snap, make sure I'm getting some levels. And I am. So I'm going to stop arming the acoustic guitar and I'm going to arm the shaker instead. I'm going to turn on input monitoring so that we can hear it. If I scratch it, you can hear it. Now I'm going to record some shaker. It's a little loud. So I'm going to pull the gain down just a bit. Great. Let's do it. So I'll record another one in a different way just to show you the take folder thing again. So I'll go ahead and do that now. Before I go on, I'm going to click this to make the waves bigger so we can see what's going on. Now, if we look at the take folders, you'll see there's two distinctly different performances. There's the eighth note shaker, and there's the 16th shaker. So if you wanted to just pick one, you can click it. Click this one. So let's say, for the sake of learning, that we want to start with eighth notes and switch to 16th notes later. So I'll start on the 16th down here, and then somewhere along the way, I will switch to the 16ths. Great. So now that I'm finished with this, I'll go ahead and click this again. And this time, instead of hitting flatten, I'm going to go to flatten and merge. And this will flatten it, but also then bounce it down into one complete audio file. So I'll go ahead and do that. And now you'll see our takes have been basically hard committed into one nice clean audio file. Sometimes I prefer to do it that way. Sometimes I like to just flatten like I did before. The next thing to talk about is recording in stereo. So I'm going to click a new track and go ahead and create it. And the way to tell Logic if your track's going to be mono or stereo is right here. You have a single circle. If you click it, you'll have a dual kind of overlapping circle. The single circle is mono, which is what we currently did, which is, one mic. And the dual channel, the two circles, is stereo, and that's going to be any sort of stereo source. Down on my floor, I have my Line 6 Helix, which is set up in stereo, so I will select that. So you'll notice when you're in stereo mode, if you click here, your inputs will now be stereo linked, so that's helpful. Make sure, though, if you're recording in stereo, those two channels you're recording are physically next to each other, and they have to be an odd, even pair. So you can't do like 2, 3. You have to do 1, 2, or 3, 4. So I have my Helix in 15 and 16. It's down on the floor over here. And I will go ahead and select that. And let me go ahead and grab a guitar and get a patch. Okay, so I've got my guitar set up through my Helix. It's recording in stereo. I have a little bit of spring reverb, so hopefully that gives it some stereo image. And I'm going to go ahead and record. So there, I've recorded a stereo file. I'll go ahead and just flatten this folder because I don't want to use my first take at all. And now if you look at the audio region, we've actually got 2 channels of audio in there, a stereo channel. If you zoom in too far, it does collapse it down visually, but it still is a stereo channel. Let me lose the guitar. Sorry, my timing was a little funky there. In the bad way, the bad funky. That is kind of the foundations of recording. The only thing I haven't done is show you how to multi-track record. So I'll do that like a pseudo right now. So the only thing that is a little challenging to do in my studio is multi-track recording. I can, but I don't have a lot of sources that I like to do it with. But I'll go ahead and show you kind of what you would do in that instance. So I'll go ahead and hit plus to add a track. And down here, I'll add whatever number of tracks I want to use. So for this example, it's 2 tracks. And create. And now you need to kind of figure out what your different tracks are going to do. So I will hit X to open the mixer. This is kind of an easier spot to see all your tracks and change the inputs. So the first track, we'll call this Clap 81, which is my SM81 over here. And the second one will be Clap 57. And now there's an important thing. So we need to set the inputs for each of these. So the SM81, I have it in the Avalon, and the SM57, I have it in SSL57. And now once you set tracks with different inputs, you can arm both of them to record. So if I go ahead and do that, we can now hear, here's our 57, and here's our 81, right? So just a quick way to make sure they're working. If I clap now, you got both of them. But an important thing to note when multi-track recording is to enable groups. So I'm going to go back to the mixer and my 2 tracks here. I want to add them to a group. And so if you look right here, you'll see a little box for group. If you don't see this, you need to right click, go to channel strip components and enable groups. So group. And then I'm going to click when they're both highlighted, click and create a new group. So this is group 1. I'll call this clap. And then in this drop down here, you can set the settings for that group. So like if you click this settings drop down, you can actually say like what the group actually means, what parameters are going to be grouped in this setting. So I definitely want editing. We don't need automation mode. We don't need volume and mute, but I want record. So if I hit record or record arm something, they are both going to record arm. And you know, for the sake of this video, I will also do volume, mute, and solo, and pan. Just so you can see, now that I've grouped them, all of these parameters are together. So the pan, the volume, it's all one. If I solo them, if I mute them, they're all linked together in that way. So I'm gonna close this and go back. Let me just point the mics at me here. This is our weird off-axis stereo clapping. So now I'm going to record arm both of these and go ahead and record some hi-fi claps. Here we go. Look at that, we did some claps. So let's listen back to these. They'll probably be out of phase. I already know they are, so I'm just gonna fix that real quick. This is a bonus flipping phase. So I'm just gonna select one of the tracks and go add a gain plugin and flip the phase. Go in here, phase invert. Okay, moving on. Slightly better. So now let me unsolo these, unarm them, and you'll see we now have. Actually, sounds pretty good. Great. If you wanted to do this again, like some layering, I'll duplicate both of them, and Logic's going to get upset because they're in the same group. So I'm going to make a new group, call it clap 2, and we'll make sure we do the same settings. There we go. Then we can safely arm these for recording, and I will do it again to kind of start to get some thicker clap layers going. Nice. And now since we have grouped these and linked the pan together, I can come in here and pan one group to one side and the other group to the other side. All right, the final thing I want to touch on in this audio recording basics video is how to fade things out, audio files, because that's going to help you clean your audio files and just have a more professional, easygoing, organized session. So one setting we need to change, go up to Logic Pro, Settings, I believe it's General, Editing. You want Pointer Tool in Tracks provides Fade Tool click zones. And this puts it into that Pro Tools zone, if you're familiar, where you can just hover over the edge of a track and fade it in and out. So I'll show you kind of what this sounds like. Let me go to the shaker. And if you do a giant fade like this, the fader is going to turn down, the shaker is going to turn down over time. You know, it's getting quieter. And you'll notice that's without touching the volume on our channel at all. It's just a way to clean your audio files so there's no pops or clicks or any sort of thing like that. So I'm going to put my playhead right here on beat 4. I'm going to highlight all my tracks and hit Command T, and that's going to trim them all. And so now I have two separate sets of regions on either side of the playhead. I'm going to delete all this, highlight all of these, and just do a nice gentle fade in. So all of these, they don't start from nowhere, they ease their way in. And then I'm gonna do the same thing on the end. See, my claps they don't need any tail really. So I can do that. And then some of these. The other thing I'm using here, sorry, I forgot to mention, is the marquee tool. It allows you to just grab a section and hit delete, or you can click and drag. It's a really in-depth tool. So I'll hit delete, and now we'll highlight these two, fade them out, and then our shaker fade out a little bit. And now if we listen to it, we have nice clean endings. No pops or clicks or anything like that. So that is a beginner-friendly overview on how to start recording your own audio within Logic Pro. If this was helpful to you, please let me know down in the comments, or if you have any other questions, feel free to let me know. If you'd like to continue learning about Logic, I'll have a video popping up right over here. Thanks.